If you didn't live here 50 years ago, you would probably not know that there was a very vibrant Black community in Manhattan.
Some of the most vivid memories I have of Yuma Street are the people and the community that they shared together. And we knew everybody's name. There was always activity. It was more like a family neighborhood. We weren't related by blood, we were related by community.
I remember when I was a college student at K-State and I learned about the rich Black history and culture of Manhattan and Yuma Street and how that tied into Fort Riley, K-State, the Negro Baseball League, and the Underground Railroad, and there's so many layers of Black history that Yuma Street holds.
The street that we used to call our main street is no longer the street that it was back in those days. That was the inspiration for me thinking about the Culture Center. Right now, when I look at that building, my vision was for it to be that focal point in the district where people could just come and enjoy and visit. And right now we don't have that. And I think now with the Black entrepreneurs coming in, all those things we'll be able to do.
The original use of the building was a church, the Shepherd Chapel. We found that this church has such rich history. The governor of Kansas laid the cornerstone, and actually Jeremiah Mitchell is the first Black entrepreneur that's documented here in Manhattan. And he owned and operated a trash collecting company. And his horses actually dug the foundation of this building. And it really set the stage of a foundation of success for future generations to come.
My dad would sit on the porch there at 1010 Yuma Street, and occasionally he'd say, he'd point across the street and he'd say, Tiger's dad lived over there. I knew Earl Woods was a military man, and I thought maybe that he was stationed at Fort Riley, and at some point they lived over there for a brief time. I linked up with Dave Baker. So I'd said, well, Dave, I think I'm gonna buy that house. And he says, oh yeah, buy that house. He says, that's Earl Woods grew up here. He graduated, he was the Kansas State, he broke the color barrier. I mean, just a lot of history. And I bought it.
Earl Woods lived at 1015 Yuma. He was the father of Tiger Woods, the golfer. And of course, he was the first Black baseball player that played at Kansas State. And I had the opportunity to be the bat boy for the K-State at that time as they played at the old Griffith Field, which is just a couple blocks away. And Earl Wood's sisters were my grade school teachers at Douglas School. Jackie Robinson was here because he was stationed at Fort Riley. He was in the military. And with the Douglas Center being a USO, which was for the colored soldiers, that was the reason why he was here. One of the greatest boxers of all time, Joe Louis, he was also here because of that. And then Rosa Parks did a commemorative program here in the 80s. George Giles, who lived at 816 Yuma, he played in the Negro Baseball League for many years. He housed dignitaries that came to Manhattan back in the day because they couldn't stay at the hotels downtown. That's what made Yuma Street such a prominent street in the Black community.
I'm really excited about the Yuma Street Cultural Center, how that can carry that legacy and that heritage forward in being a place of connection for the community, not only to understand their past, but to understand how to move forward in the future. We envision people of this community being exposed to cultural businesses that needed the opportunity to showcase their gifts and talents.
In some way, the Cultural Center will become that place where your kids can go and you know they're safe, you know that someone has their best interest at heart, because it's the interest of the community.
Well, I've often said that if you don't preserve history, the younger generations will never know, lay the foundation of the past and it will definitely have an effect on the future. And so I really believe in my heart that this culture center is going to not only let them know what happened in the past, but it's also going to help preserve the future. The Black community back in those days, we had everything because we were segregated. I really didn't realize how segregated we were until I left Manhattan and went away to college, and then I came back. Every day I came, I would look up and down Yuma Street, and I could just see how it used to be. And it was such a vibrant street. The Douglas Center was a focal point, and everything went on here. I mean, if you wanted to know what was going on in the Black community, you came to the Douglas Center. Soldiers would come here from Fort Riley. There was just activity going here all the time.
I have fallen in love all over again with the community. The people aren't here like they were, and we don't have those family connections, but their spirit is still here. My mom and dad, the statues in front of this building are of their likeness. So I see them every day. Both my mom and dad were World War II veterans. Actually, the military brought them here. They came here with already a sense of service to the nation, and then that spilled over once they retired as service to the community. They took care of their homes. They took pride in the neighborhood. I think sometimes people can have a better appreciation of where they live when they know the history.
When people visit the completed Yuma Street Cultural Center, I want them to feel a sense of community. I envision that the Cultural Center would be a place to highlight those gifts and talents of people in our community that are sometimes marginalized or overlooked. People would feel seen, people would feel safe, and that people would feel connected to this community.
It could be a very vibrant, vocal place, a spot for people to come and congregate and just enjoy and talk about the past and the future.
We need the community to invest into preserving history, invest into preserving legacy, and invest into the future. That investment will go into the renovation of a historical structure in our city.
There's some things in Manhattan, Kansas that are just very important. This part of town was very important back in the day, and it's still important today, but there's so much history here that is gone that if we don't preserve it, the younger generation will never know. Anyone that can donate and help us preserve this history would just be monumental, because this is part of what made Manhattan the community that it is today.
The work that the Black entrepreneurs of Flint Hills are doing is pivotal in forging the future. Not just Yuma Street, but it will filter out into the rest of Manhattan, as it was so many years ago. This was it. This was the hub.
For Black entrepreneurs of the Flint Hills to have a physical, permanent space really would have an impact on our ability to grow and sustain the work of the organization. Having the physical, permanent infrastructure is everything. We also see this space as being a hub of tourism, of cultural tourism here, where people can actually come in and that they would be able to understand those rich pieces of history that exist on the street. Schools would be able to take field trips to the Yuma Street Cultural Center. And so for anyone who aligns with this vision, to be able to be a part of this energy, to be a part of this physical infrastructure that will be here for years to come, we invite you to invest into the Yuma Street Cultural Center.